I trust myself. I trust my value. I know that whenever I commit to a relationship, there's so much that I can give. And because of that, I feel comfortable that being on distance will not make me be forgotten.
I don't think it necessarily matters that I have another nesting partner or multiple partners or she has anyone, because if you feel rooted, grounded, and secure, and there's this open line of communication and you're being seen, then I feel like it decreases this like other stuff that might be sitting in the shadows that comes up when it happens to come up.
Hi everyone, welcome to Polycurious. I am Fair, non-monogamous relationship coach and host of this podcast. And I'm very excited about today's episode because a lot of you have been asking me for episodes about how to manage different partnerships. And even though we've definitely had poly people in the podcast, I don't think we had really gone deep with people who have had long-standing relationships with two partners and having to manage that and finding security despite not being nesting partners. And what I really loved about Roshi and Frankie today is that they feel very secure in themselves and very secure in their relationship that has been going for over 3 years now and that has been long distance. Both of them have other partners. And through all of that, they've stayed together and they've formed something really beautiful. So to me, what this episode reminded me is that if you want to be polyamorous, it is very, 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 very important to have confidence in the relationship that you have with your partner. And not to say that insecurities won't come up, but what I often tell my clients is that when they're feeling insecure because their partner is experiencing something with someone else, instead of focusing on what their partner is doing with someone else, it's important to focus on the connection that you have with your partner and build security and confidence in that, right? And to question what are these insecurities revealing about what I need or what our relationship needs. Honestly, I think that this episode is not just helpful for people who are polyamorous. I think it's helpful for anyone who's in any sort of relationship because they are an example of how you can overcome anything through communication and care for one another and trust. More than anything, trust. Frankie has actually been in Polycurious twice before. The first time, 3 or 4 years ago at this point, in one of our first episodes. It's episode 6, and the title is Facing Insecurities Head On. It's one of the most listened Polycurious episodes ever. And in it, Frankie talks about insecurities that came up when her partner at the time developed a relationship, a working relationship actually at first with someone else, and how she decided to approach that person and ended up actually becoming friends with that person. The second time was on my Patreon, and there she expanded on where she sat with that former partner, with the person that then became her best friend, and then she introduced Roshi. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to have them both on the podcast. So if you want to get the full scoop, I would go first and listen to episode 6, then go to my Patreon and listen to the Where Are They Now episode with Frankie, and then come back to this one. And if you subscribe to my Patreon, you could also listen to the extra content from this interview, where we talk about where Roshi stands, having two partners that already have nesting partners and what that means for her and her desire to also have a primary partner and have kids. And we also talk about determining what's important for you. Given your partner won't meet all of your needs, what are those needs that are truly important? So if you want to check that out, the link to the Patreon as well as to all of the episodes will be in the episode description. Okay, let's just get into it, shall we? Here's my interview with Roshi and Frankie. I'm so excited to have you both. I know that we don't live in the same place anymore, but I think you have a beautiful relationship. And even though I haven't been around to witness all of it, I can sense that it's something special. I know we have a lot to cover, a lot of interesting things to talk about because both of you have other partners and are very deep into the poly world, and I think doing an excellent job. But let's maybe go back and just get a sense of where you were both when you met in your journey and how you came to become partners.
So Frankie and I, we met 3 years ago. And at that time, I was breaking up with my previous partner that we've been together for 5 years. That was the first relationship that I had that was fully open. Before that relationship, I had open relationships, but were more like non-ethical. So I would like lie or cheat. And in this previous relationship that lasted for 5 years, I felt that I was understood and I could really express myself. But the relationship ended and I had my heart broken. So I decided to change my paradigm of love, to start loving in a different way. And for that, I met two friends that they also participated in Polycurious, Josh and Erin, and they told me about poly, and they told me of how well their relationship was going and how much it was serving them. So I said for myself, okay, I practiced monogamy before, sometimes ethical, sometimes not ethical. What else is there? What else can I try out? And that's when I met Frankie. And when I met her, we at first connected as friends, and that connection was so beautiful that I felt very captivated with exploring a connection deeper with Frankie. So we didn't expect it to become what it became, but over time we just felt more and more attracted to each other, at least on my side, fascinated with this woman that I have in front of me, and I just wanted to have her more in my life. So now it's been 3 years that we're together.
Oh, wow. It's been that long. Wow.
It's been 3 years.
Officially my longest relationship.
Oh, really? Congratulations. Just quickly, I do want to hear from you, Frankie, but Josh and Erin were in Polycurious. They were also in the show Couples Therapy, if anyone has seen it, which, by the way, I remember, Roshi, one time we met and you were like, yeah, we can't meet at my place because I think you used to live with them because they're filming this show. And at that point, I had like no idea. And then it's one of my favorite shows and I binged it. And so it's just interesting to think about that. But anyhow, if people want to listen, there'll be a link in the show notes. And just to make sure people are clear, you met through a common partner, right? And then you realize that you wanted to continue the connection outside.
Correct. And what is interesting from our woman-woman relationship is that it changes constantly between being like a deep friendship and a lovership. So from the moment that I met Frankie, I knew that I was attracted to her. And in my story, I started liking women before I liking men. So I already knew that what I was feeling for her was like a deep attraction, but it was only when we had this door of like romance and sexuality opened up, we just flew with it.
Lovely. That sounds nice. Yeah, and I do want to talk a little bit more about that, how the dynamic is different, because I think it's both of your first time in a relationship with a woman. I know, Frankie, you mentioned that you've been in a relationship with couples. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm curious to hear how that's different. But tell us, Frankie, like where you were at when you met and in your journey.
Yeah, it's kind of wild because I guess I was coming out of these dynamics of like ethical non-monogamous relationships. And that was the first time that I was in one and exploring that for myself, as like the episode that we talked about in the very beginning. And it was, navigating the space of like being with, at that time, an ex-partner who I was still romantically involved with. And coming out of that, I knew I wanted to be open. I don't think I was fully calling myself poly at that time, because I think for me, it was like, let me get into one relationship before we even talk about multiple. But the concept of openness in partnership was definitely something that I was like, this is what I value. This is what I'm aligned with. And I think at that time, I just had a couple of loverships, is what I call them. One of which is the mutual person that kind of brought us together. And so I think in that time, I was definitely open to just what was coming my way. And I was just excited to see what was happening. But in this consistent desire and search for what I'm calling my nesting partner. But I wasn't necessarily saying, no, I can't have other experiences. And I think during that time when Roshi and I met, there was definitely friendliness, like that like best friend kind of energy was definitely there, where you're like, oh yeah, we're like partners in crime here. And I think navigating that space led us into this like experiences that became intimate, and it felt easy. It felt just like this natural flow. And I didn't question, oh, she's a woman. What does this mean for me? It didn't matter. because everything was just so wonderful. It is my first female relationship. And so navigating that is interesting and for what it is. But I think because Roshi is who she is, it makes things so simple and so easy that like, there's no question of like, oh, what does that mean for me? And how does that change my sexual orientation or anything? It's like, no, I'm in love with this soul. I need to be with this person. This is who I'm with. End of story. And like, it just flows from there on.
And now you're gay.
I love it. And what about like the first date? Were you like nervous? Oh, are we going to have sex? Are we not? Right? That's how I feel. Like I played with many women with men. But if I'm going to just meet up with them, I don't really know how to act in that setting.
Yeah. Somehow her and I just so easily flowed. Things just happened so organically and so naturally. And our check-ins were so just easy. So easy.
Because women are more emotional.
Everyone should date a woman.
Intelligent.
Everyone should date a woman is now my motto. I just remember having that moment of being like, are we dating?
You asked?
I asked her. Yeah. And she's just like, she's like, are we dating? And I was like, oh my God, the pressure's on me. What do I say?
Yeah, for sure. We had like some shyness at the beginning of like the connection that we had, but I don't really remember a specific date in where we said like, okay, we are officially together. It was just, a consequence of spending time together and caring for each other and the energy that we would put into the connection and making new plans. Because every time that we will have a plan and we will make a trip or see each other, there was so much desire of continuing it. So it was very organic.
Awesome. So what happened after that? At that point, I don't think you lived in the same place.
So for the context, I am nomadic. I have my residence in Chile, but I travel often to New York and most of the time to other places. And because like Frankie and other friends from our community also travel, I have most of my experiences abroad. The year that I met Frankie, I stayed in United States for, I think, 6 months. And because I stayed longer during that time, we were able to like go on dates and have other experiences. Then I flew to Europe, that I stayed there for a couple of months, and then back to New York. So that year was the year that we had the most amount of time shared together in the same space. The year following that, I decided to spend more time in Latin America. And that's when I took the decision of moving to Chile. So Frankie came to visit me in South America, and we did like a trip in Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile.
Oh, nice. Awesome. So yeah, sounds like you've been long distance for 3 years, which is crazy. And I know you have these long stays in New York, but that's awesome that despite that, at least at the beginning, it felt organic. But maybe share what were some missteps or like bumps that you encountered, because I'm sure it started off like that, but then things happen, right?
I mean, things always happen. I know for me, I don't do long distance. I'm a person who needs physical contact, consistent, like engagement.
Except for this one.
Right, I don't do long distance, but but the 3-year long relationship, my longest one is long distance, but I don't do long distance.
But that's the thing. That's the funny part, right? Where it's like, and I say this to her all the time. I was like, she is such an outlier to everything that I've ever done in partnerships. It's like not only that she's a woman, but I also don't do long distance, and yet somehow it's like she's just worth it. But I definitely prefer when she stays here, even though I feel like it causes a little chaos for her, because I feel like I understand that she needs like some grounding, and my life is just chaos squared all the time. So like I notice and I feel her efforts in working around what my life is, even though I feel like it dysregulates her a little bit so much.
Just sometimes.
But I genuinely love when she stays with me, because it almost like makes up for the time that we're apart.
Right. Yeah. So tell me about the other partners, right? Because you entered the relationship already being poly. Actually, you entered through a common partner.
Yeah.
So what happened to that common partner when other partners have entered the picture? Because again, both of you have other partners too. How has that affected your dynamic?
Okay, so before, I was dating with this partner that we had in common with Frankie. And I also had another partner, Tim, that we are still partners. So at that time, I was starting 3 different partnerships. And I started that because, again, for me, it was an experiment of like, how does poly work? What is this? Now I'm only with Frankie and with Tim.
At that time, so we did have our mutual lover, which at this point, I call him my celestial lover because like he's not around as often, but like when we see each other, I know that times have kind of created a little bit of distance, and I'm also in school. So when he does come around, I also am not as available.
Yeah, because he also doesn't live here anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but we're like navigating that. And I think at that time I had people that I was seeing and somebody else that I was kind of like testing the waters with. While Roshi has had her partners, it's been actually really interesting because like I find moments of jealousy with the metamor, of like I catch myself being like, oh, you get so much time. I want her time too, but it's like, but our asks are different, like any person has different requests of time and energy and what that looks like. But it's just, I find myself like finding those moments of like jealousy sometimes, which is really cute. For me,
hold on one second. We need to remark that you just said that finding moments of jealousy is cute.
Well, because it's not like jealousy where I'm like, it's not envy, right? I'm not like, oh, he gets this and I don't. And it doesn't like eat away at me. It's like those cute things where you're just like, when if let's say you go out with your partner and there's somebody who flirts with your partner, and you're just like, oh, yeah, you like him. Yeah, I know you do. Okay, cute. It's like, it's kind of like that. It's this like friendly kind of flirtatious jealousy that I think keeps you a little bit on your toes, gets a little fire going, but not to the point that it's unhealthy, not to a point that it's like impeding. It almost like ignites the same, like, yeah, of course you want to spend time with her because she's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to also remark that Tim, Roshi's other partner, has a primary partner that he has been with for like 20 years. So I think that also changes things, because if he didn't have this other primary partnership, then there might be more of a question of,
what does he want?
Yeah, like, is he going to take her away, quote unquote, like as his primary? But that's not going to happen. So there's like a little bit more of like a safety of like, sure, like sometimes he gets like a lot of time with her and I wish I had more time with her. But at the end of the day, he also has another partner that he's going to go back home to, and Roshi's staying with me, So that creates, I imagine, a security that like if you didn't have that structure, it would be a little bit harder to know where you stand. Like, oh, are they going to become something more? And where does that leave me,
Right. Well, it's kind of funny because like, even in our dynamic now, it's like I know that there was a moment where we were questioning, like, are we primary partners? Like, like normally how people start defining their relationship. So did we, like, where do we stand? Are we?
It's like, it's been a year and we really like each other.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Do we want to like spend more time together? Because that's a commitment. It's a flight ticket. It's vacation. It's time. It's like, it's work.
It's work. Which, like anything is work, but it's interesting because like right now, as I'm growing and experiencing something with, it's funny, like I call him my nesting partner. And so it's interesting to navigate this new space now of like, okay, yes, I do have this person that I'm looking as my nesting partner, but somehow using this language of like primary, not that I don't want to call him my primary, but then I'm not going to call her my secondary because that's not what she feels like to me, So it just, for me, like that vocabulary, or it's not that I don't necessarily believe in hierarchy necessarily, but just that vocabulary doesn't feel appropriate, especially because we've been together for 3 years, like there's so much more depth and history and experiences.
Right. Yeah, you can still be somewhat hierarchical without using the term like secondary, right? So I'm curious, why have you decided not to become nesting partners or primary partners, or however you want to call it? Because, I mean, I know that now you have this other nesting partner, but when you started dating, you both were available for
a primary,
for a nesting partner, whatever. Like, what did those conversations look like?
Yeah, so the moment when I started connecting with Frankie, I was coming back from this like 5-year relationship that was very important to me, and I had my heart very hurt. So I started polling as an experiment and to see which other ways of love exist. So I didn't want to commit into a primary partnership because I already came from that. And I feel that over time, our relationship proved to me that it was super special, that it is super special, and that is really important to me. But then the question came of, since I'm nomadic and I don't live in the United States, to become primary partners with Frankie implies for me not just to process the visa, but to do the entire process of immigration to a culture that I'm right now not choosing. So on my consideration, when I said no to being Frankie's primary partner, is mainly because of the logistics of the country and understanding if I really want to develop a life in the United States.
So it was more like Frankie was open to it and you were like, no, I'm not there because I just came out of this long-term relationship. And also I don't know if I want to live in the US.
I mean, just so we're clear, I did tell her that if she wanted to, she can marry me. And she said no. So just so we're clear.
How did that feel though, Frankie, when she was like, no, I don't think I want this?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's like, how do you ask somebody who doesn't have citizenship, who doesn't have, like, she has a life here, definitely, you know, like you have an entire pod of humans and everything, but like her life is not here and I'm kind of stuck here because I'm in school, the work that I do. I'm here for at least a minimum of 5 more years. So I can't be something that almost like binds her to a place that, you know, she's also trying to figure out what her life is, what her business is, like what her moves are. And I think we both were aligned in this idea that like, we want to be in each other's lives. We love each other. We are here for each other. Whatever that looks like, we'll just make it work.
Right. So you didn't take it personally and were like heartbroken, or, you know, you were like, okay, that makes sense. Like we have a lot going on.
Heartbroken, you know, no, I actually wouldn't say yes, but you know.
And I always felt the support from Frankie. Like when I said that I needed time to heal my heart, when I said that I needed time to like explore and travel the world, when I even decided that I wanted to become an entrepreneur and move to South America to build my project there, I always felt the support from Frankie saying like, our partnership is safe, our partnership is secure. We're not gonna like break up because I need to go through this journey of myself. And I also didn't want to make the decision of moving to the United States for love. I wanted to explore like this desire that I have of like, what does my heart want? What are the adventures that await for me? So I do feel that that's one of the most special things from our relationship, the amount of support that we have. And I know that for multiple others, like being far away is not an option for a relationship. So I feel tremendously grateful that you not just open up yourself for a relationship with a woman, but also that you open up yourself for poly and distance, because it's immense. You know, I'm so grateful that we're doing this. And
look at what I'm doing. I'm becoming gay. I'm becoming dating long distance. Like
propose to you, basically. I do wonder, though, Roshi, because you said, okay, you know, I said I couldn't do the nesting partner or the primary partnership thing. But then Frankie has had other partners and currently has a partner that now is her nesting partner. How does that feel to you? Because even though you said, I don't have space for this, I can't give this to you, that doesn't mean that when someone else comes in the picture, it doesn't feel a little bit like someone's taking something away from you, especially since you've been with Frankie for 3 years. And how long have you been with your nesting partner?
With my nesting partner, it's only been like a couple of months at this point. So he's fresh. He's new.
So, you know, how does that feel for you, Roshi?
It's interesting because since we started a relationship with Frankie, she had 3 different connections that she explored. I had like no triggers, no hesitation, no discomfort. I was really supportive, but at the same time, I felt that she was exploring these connections. But with this last one, her current nesting partner, there's something inside of me that says that this is the right person. There's something inside of me that says that their connection that they have is really beautiful, and I'm really supportive of them. I can see how this will develop over time, like in a very beautiful, stable relationship. So the first feeling that I have is I'm really happy for her because I know how much she's been wanting to have a nesting partner, and I also see how well it connects her energy with this person. So I'm really, really happy for this connection. And yes, on the other side, I've been feeling some feelings of wanting to have more clarity on what our relationship is now. What does it mean if I come back? And for example, if they decide to move together, what would that look like when I come to visit?
Right, because right now you're staying with Frankie, but it's well, I don't know. Like, would you then stay with like Frankie and her nesting partner?
Yes, correct. So there are questions on that is like logistics, but there are also questions of like, what is my place in your heart now? Or what about like if you want to develop a vision with this new person, with a nesting partner, which I'm super supportive of, then what is the vision that we can share together? And we are starting to see some of like the little challenges that this brings. For example, her wanting to spend time with both of us at the same time, and me feeling like I also want my solo time, which doesn't mean that I'm close to spending time with him. It means that I also want my solo time. So, and solo with Frankie, I mean like one-on-one. And that's okay because it's a conversation, and over time we will continue working. I feel that we are very accountable people. Like whenever we say we want something, we do it. So whenever she tells me that something is important for her, I trust her. I know that it is important. Maybe on the way we have like ways of like, getting lost or confused, but our north is clear.
I think what it starts creating, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know that this is something that came up for me when navigating time and space when she's with her other partner, I think it allows us to understand our own boundaries. What are our desires? Like, what is it that we need? What do we want? And being able to share that. Like if all of a sudden it's like, I'm coming home, but I want to come home to her, and be able to being like, hey, whatever you're doing with your day, whatever that looks like. And of course, it's not when she's with her other partner, because that's kind of like an understanding. If you're having an evening with your partner, you're going to spend the night with that partner. But it's like, if you're hanging out with your friends and maybe I'm hanging out with my friends, like I want to spend tonight with you. Tonight matters. Like I want to cuddle tonight. And being able to say that, and, and obviously that's a conversation. It's not a demand. It almost makes you need to express what you want or what you don't want more so, because now you have to share that time. Now there's different desires. Now you're being pulled in different directions. So how do you dedicate time to everybody, but also express when you require something from someone?
Right. Like when you're feeling jealous or
not priority.
Yeah, not a priority or whatever. It's like, it's not about, see this other person less. It's more like, what is it that you need? What's that feeling telling you? And sometimes you have everything you need and it's just like pure jealousy. And sometimes it shows you've been having a lot of adventures with this new person or with this other person. And I also want to have adventures with you. Like, let's have adventures, right? Like, so it also just shows you what your relationship is missing.
Yeah.
Yes. In my case, it's like, I don't think of it as jealousy because for me, jealousy is a trigger of something that I'm missing. It's specifically tied to a need. So my needs are usually time or quality. And when I say quality, it's like, for example, maybe we're not spending time together physically, but I see the quality of your presence when we have a conversation, or I see that you remember something that is important to me. And quality requires energy. So it's harder to measure because you don't know specifically how much time it is, but it's the energy that you put into the relationship. So whenever I feel triggered with something on this new relationship, I usually think of like, okay, what are these needs that I need to be satisfied? And what is our North Star? Where are we going to? Does this conversation contribute to our goal? And if it does not, I try to like put it away or leave less priority and do emotional work for myself to regulate and not bring that as a topic, because I think that what is complicated for being in a distance relationship with two partners and in this dynamic that we have is super important to be clear of like, where are we going? What is important on this way? And everything else, just leave it outside. Because otherwise, there's so many conversations that we will spend so much time talking that they're not really contributing to the purpose that we have, or at least on mine.
I understand what you're saying, but can you maybe give an example of like a conversation that might not be productive? Because what you're saying is, okay, I'm seeing Frankie have a life vision with this other partner. That's showing me I also want a life vision, and that's important. But what are other feelings that come up and conversations that it's more like the work that you have to do internally instead of having a conversation with Frankie about it?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, for example, Frankie and I, we work on different times. So sometimes I want to be clear with how my schedule will look like for the day or for the week, and we have complications on that because we work on different schedules. So I have the option of saying, hey, I can break up this conversation and talk about it. But at the end of the day, I'm staying here for X amount of time. There are certain things of like the way that she organizes her time that I already know. So I should not expect her to change and just adapt around that. And yes, maybe if I was living in the country, having a primary partnership with her and like being nesting, that will affect every day of my life. But since it's in this container of like only through the time that I'm visiting, I leave those conversations outside, or I try to not like bring them up when I know that I'm here for connecting with her on other things. So if we're late for an event or something changes on the schedule, I'll just ignore it. Or if I bring it up, it's not with the intention of having a deep conversation.
So for context also, when it comes to the two of us, she is punctual on many things. She's like a project manager. So things are like organized and things are scheduled in a way. And then I kind of come in as this like wrecking ball of like, we're doing this. Oh, fuck. I'm like 30 minutes late. Nope, we're now going here. Sorry, I ended up here. Now we're here. Okay, let's go out for dinner now. So like, it's definitely been a lot of work for her to work around what that looks like for me to accommodate what my schedule is like. Not to say I don't try. I definitely try to be more organized.
You got so much better over time.
It's progress, being timely and stuff like that. But it's definitely like a consistent thing that has been present in our dynamic, And so when she says like, we try to like not talk about it now, because it's like also at this point, it's an understanding of like, we're doing our best. We can mention some things like, you were late again. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry, but we're no longer fighting or getting upset because she is a certain way and I'm a certain way. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, we are here now. We're going to spend this time together. Let's just make the best of it.
Yeah, that's so important. I feel like I have a hard time with that. Just like letting go, if someone does something that upsets me, just to be like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let it be.
Yeah.
And then often I do that and then like it just comes out, it just comes out anyway. So I've been like learning that also in my partnership with John. Like I was talking to Roshi about it, like Seth, my primary, and John, my secondary. They're like completely different people, So it's a constant exercise of being like, okay, this is not how one or the other would act, but I'm not going to be like, why aren't you acting like my other partner? You know what I mean? Or why aren't you doing the exact thing? I think I've come to like a place of understanding of like, okay, they're different, not only different from each other, but different from me. And like, I just need to let them be. Yes, I will bring things up that are really important, but like the small things, then you can get caught up in arguing or whatever. When, as you said, you only have that much time together.
Exactly.
Why get caught up in something that's not important when you can just like ignore that, Frankie was late one more time or whatever, like today for the interview.
Sorry guys, I tried.
Okay.
But, one thing that I learned on my end with her, and I'm trying to do it this time, especially now that we're like managing the time of like managing multiple partners, it's like, for example, we had certain plans, right? So it's like this, and this day, or these particular days, I'm going to be with this partner. And then on this day, we're going to meet up and we're going to spend some time together as well, but life happens and things get adjusted, whatever that looks like. So because I do want her to understand that I am trying to prioritize her and I do care that in those moments when I take time away from her or I have to reschedule something for whatever reason, I know that she sometimes like puts things aside, but I also don't want that to sit with her if that's actually bothering her and she's doing her own work to not bring this up in our dynamic because that's all the time we have, which is so big of her and I greatly appreciate it. But I also don't want that to just sit with her, so I'll just do a check-in of like, hey, mama, it's like, thank you for doing this. I see that you're doing this. I understand. I appreciate. I love you. Like, I'm thinking about you. Like, I want her to feel loved and security in our dynamic. And I feel like if we can establish that or continue establishing that and maybe even grow that, then I don't think it necessarily matters that I have another nesting partner or multiple partners or she has anyone, because if you feel rooted, grounded, and secure, and there's this open line of communication and you're being seen, then I feel like it decreases this like other stuff that might be sitting in the shadows that comes up when it happens to come up.
Yeah, exactly. If the foundation is good, it's a lot easier to be like, it's okay that Frankie was late because I know that she cares about me and she loves me. But if it's like, oh, I'm feeling deprioritized and now she's late because she was on a date with this other partner, whatever, then you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to let it go because I don't want to get, because then it like stays with you. But what you said, having conversations about it, maybe not in the moment, but later is really important. And that's how I've actually trained myself to let go as well, because I often have thoughts or whatever. And I know that I have my check-in with Seth every 2 weeks. I just know like, okay, I don't need to address it. I will address it then. And that way I can let go because I know it will be addressed at some point. I still, and then sometimes like the 2 weeks come around and I'm like, look at the note of the thing I wanted to bring up. And I'm like, actually, it's not that important anymore, right? Because sometimes you just need time.
But it's also not to say that like, if something does happen that is imperative, that is really impacting you, like when that happens, like your whole body is a response to something, that's not to say, hey, let's wait 2 weeks for that check-in that we do to discuss something that really is impacting me now.
Right.
And so, and that's also like a thing of like, hey, do you have space? Like, we really need to talk about something. Mm-hmm. And like just having the space to do it. Like at the end of the day, like I think it's having this understanding that I trust and believe that everything that she does is to better our relationship and with me in mind. And I would love to believe that that's how she feels and understands I'm doing the same. That no matter what happens, like this relationship is important to me and I have her best interest in mind.
Yeah. And I imagine that's why you both have been able to manage pretty well your feelings around the other person having other partners because you feel so confident in your connection. However, I did want to ask too, Roshi, because you said, you are happy about Frankie's nesting partner. And then even before you didn't really feel too jealous. But I'm curious because you are the long distance partner, right? And these other partners were here. And, I'm also like long distance with John. So like that's something that comes up for me sometimes. He's got people that he's dating that he can see all 3 times a week all the time. And I only get to see him this much. And that sometimes causes insecurity. But how have you dealt with that?
This is just my experience, but I feel really confident about the person who I am and the value that I bring to our relationship. And I know the person that I am. So the way that I approach my relationship is like, if you want to spend time with me and you want to like connect and deepen, my only request is that our major commitment is to make from each other the best versions of ourselves. And that's why Frankie and I, we have like such strong feeling of safety and care for each other, because the value number one is how do we use this partnership to make each other better? How are we better friends and supporters and partners and connection and family? That's the value number one. So all the things that we do whenever we have like a conversation that is hard is to understand from which place is the other person coming and how does this serve me to be better. So because of knowing that and because of knowing that there is an active commitment of becoming better, I feel very safe on the distance relationship. And part of poly is also accepting that it's wonderful to connect with multiple humans at the same time. And it's part of this journey to know how to prioritize what are the feelings that need to be spoken versus the conflicts that are actually important in the relationship to move forward. I feel that a poly journey is only for those who, first of all, are brave to understand their own value. And secondly, know how to emotionally regulate themselves and prioritize the things that are important. Otherwise, if you're not willing to have this emotional work on yourself, poly is going to be very complicated.
I love that. You just said something that I think is so valuable. When you're having conversations, think about where that person is coming from and what you can learn from it. That's so important because sometimes we get defensive, right? Myself included. Like your partner tells you something that you did wrong or that they want differently or whatever. And then you're like, this is why I did it. And it hits your ego. You feel insecure. You feel guilty or whatever. And your perspective is not an ego-based perspective. It's more of a perspective of love for the other person and like wanting to understand where the other person is coming from, and then self-growth, right? So seeing the opportunity in the thing that you did wrong, quote unquote, like where is that opportunity for growth and for connection with the other person by understanding their side and their point of view. And I feel like if people had that front and center in everyday conversations with their partners, it would get resolved so much more easily. And it sounds to me, and I'm not sure, like, yeah, like you both, yes, you have a lot of conversations because you're long distance, you have other partners, this and that. But it sounds to me like you resolve conflict quickly.
Yes, and for example, for this conflict that we were saying about like time management, like every time that I feel triggered with the way that our schedules work, I ask for myself, okay, so now I'm becoming an entrepreneur and I have to go through a lot of stress. So thank you for Frankie that I have all this stress on my calendar. Like I have to learn how to manage that better. So she's actually giving me like challenges that I appreciate, honestly. And I feel that they help me to grow better. And would I choose them? I mean, we're getting better on many of these things, but for now it's helping me to grow and to learn to be different. And I think that the change is noticeable in these 3 years. I feel that I changed so much thanks to you.
And I could say the same. I learned so much from her, you know, and I think that's like such an attractive feature for me just to begin with, you know, to be able to be attracted to someone's mind. I can't even tell you how many times I'm going through like a huge emotional like dysregulation because something is happening. And I literally call her for like 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm like, Mama, this is what's happening. I don't know what to do. I'm about to park my car and the situation's happening. Help me. And she's like, okay. And 5 minutes. And I'm calm. I've learned lessons. I have a speech in mind. Like, it's so,
you have a speech.
Like, the whole thing. Like, it's like everything is like,
yeah, we did work interviews over the phone. Like, we've been practicing anything.
Yeah. It goes beyond just like conversation. You know, there's just like so much depth in the connection that we have and how we understand each other. The amount of ability and capability and tools that we individually have to be able to support, provide, and teach the other person. Like, it's impressive. She didn't become this way because of me, but I am definitely the way I am because of her. You know, so it's this beautiful growth that we constantly have with each other.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's what attracts me about poly, even though I've been like resisting it for so long, that you do learn from different people, and not just from different people, from the different person that you become in a different relationship, right? And yes, it can be really taxing and difficult, but it can also be like very fulfilling. And if you have that perspective of like, okay, what am I learning?
What is the healing behind this trigger?
Yeah, as opposed to the perspective that like the dark place I sometimes go to of like, why the fuck am I even doing this? This is like too much work or whatever. You know, if you have the perspective of just seeing the glass half full and like thinking of all the things that you're learning, then it becomes a lot easier to feel positive about it and to resolve conflict more quickly and all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one question I have, because, you know, your other partners are men, so maybe this doesn't apply very much, but do you ever have moments where you like compare your partners or like this timely thing? Like, you know, I'm sure, I don't know. I imagine Tim is like on time and things like that.
It's funny because like I feel like Frankie with Tim because he's like so on time. Like he's very clear about like his intentions, his desires, everything. And I'm like, not.
That's so funny.
So I have a lot of empathy for Frankie because I go through that with him and I have to constantly excuse myself for being late, for not being clear with my plans, for changing things around. So it's beautiful because my partnership with Tim is helping me to be much more compassionate and empathetic with Frankie.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
And on my end, it's actually funny because I remember the first time that my two partners have met in person, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Like Roshi and your nesting partner.
Yeah. And they met in person, and we were just having these conversations about like horoscope and things and like rising suns. And I was like, oh my God, they're very similar in many ways. Like a lot of the features that I'm attracted to, the adventurous, the way they think, there's so many similarities between the two of them, which is also like, I guess becomes complicated because then I'm like, oh my God, you guys are so much alike. You guys should be best friends, and the three of us should be best friends, and we should all hang out all the time. And it's like, oh wait, hold on a second. No. Yes, but no.
Right. You just said, you know, that you also wanted your solo time with Frankie, right? And that Frankie might just be like, let's hang out the three of us all the time. Yeah.
And it's funny because I do see myself similar to him, and I'm very curious to get to know him better. So I understand also like the connection that Frankie has with him. I am really open of spending time all together. It shows that there are certain levels of poly that for me are challenging, and I can imagine for everyone, you know, it goes in steps. So the step of like accepting the meta around having a kitchen table, but like with this specific intention of like, hey, let's hang out all together. It's still new to me. So I'm adjusting to that.
Yeah. You guys, we get along great. I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think that it's like very personal thing, like the level of comfort with like how close you want to be with your partner's partner.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a reason, as you were saying, why you pick both of them. They have things in common. And so it's also sweet to be able to connect your two partners and see that. And that's always like really wonderful.
Yeah.
See, I know my other side, like Frankie and Tim, they couldn't be any more different. And at the same time, with Tim's partner, who's his wife, I have like a very nice relationship. It's super cordial, but we're not really super close. And yes, we do have like the comfort of being able to ask each other for things or send each other messages. But I feel that both of us, we feel comfortable with a distance relationship, or a bit more distant.
Yeah, again, I think it's very personal. So do you ever find yourself comparing Tim and Frankie?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I think that it's not possible to not compare. And part of my exploration on poly was like, how does this work? How much space does my heart have for loving people? And now that I found these two incredible humans that I'm not letting go of, it's very interesting to see why I'm attracted with one and the other, being both of them so different, and who's the person that I become with one or the other. I do see that being with Frankie takes out a side of me that is much more like creative and adventurous, and like anything could happen. You know, we can stay up until 3 a.m. in the morning and drive to Long Island City because we need to pick up this thing, you know, and it feels like an adventure, where otherwise with Tim, it's more about like, it's a more romantic connection. We explore the city, we explore senses. It's more delicate, more calm. It's wonderful also, but it's just like very different. So I feel that things that both of them are different, and things that I can compare and see like what are the different parts that they take from me. I feel so grateful for poly.
Yeah, and do you find it easy to do that switching? Because I have a hard time with that, and maybe it's different because I'm in a long distance relationship with John, so I don't get to like practice too much being the version of the person that I need to be when I'm with him. But like all of a sudden, like I go from Seth, who's a planner, wants to go to bed early, doesn't want to like party that much, whatever. And then John is more like spontaneous and wants to do all the things, more like, I guess, more like Frankie, you know? And Seth is more like Tim. And then I'm like, oh, hold on. Then like, I need to be the person who's like, no, let's go to bed, or like whatever. Like whereas with Seth, I need to be the one who's like, no, come on, let's stay up a little bit longer. You know what I mean? So I need to be a different person, and it's so hard to like switch, you know, sometimes I forget that like how I need to act.
And it's wonderful that you're already experiencing that part, because then you're seeing two sides of yourself that are part of yourself and they coexist. The hard part is the integration of both and meeting both of them in the middle. So then your true self can come out. And I think that's the hardest part. And that's why I like poly so much, because I know that I'm these two people, right? Like the person that I'm with Tim and the person that I'm with Frankie, and also the person that I am with when I have other dates, right? But like the integration of everyone and realizing, hey, how much of a structure do I want to have over free flow, or how much of like nurturing versus caring versus, so I can see the polar sides when I'm with my partners, but that helps me to realize, is this important to me, and do I want to integrate it for my full self? So for example, I really like that with Frankie, we are flexible on sleeping at different times in the night. Like we don't really have like a sleeping schedule, but I do value that with Tim, our routine is very fixed. So thanks to the routine that I have with Tim, I'm able to propose to Frankie something that works for both of us. But maybe it's not going to bed at 10, but it's at 12. And I see how she also benefits from that, from like having, you know, like the food is prepared and it's warm. And like
basic needs.
Yeah, basic needs. So thanks to that contrast and for the work of integration, we all can benefit from it. And also Tim has some adventures at nighttime too.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. Actually, my therapist the other day was like, you know, like you just need to take a little bit of John and a little bit of Seth and like integrate it. And I think that it's kind of what you're saying, you know, like the two versions of yourself show up in the two relationships, but it's like, who are you truly? And you are neither, or you're like in the middle, right? And it's about finding what that middle is for you, you know?
Which is like, I think different for me because my partners are similar in many ways. A little, I mean, I feel like with my nesting partner, we're a little bit more chaotic. And so I feel like I actually have to take on Roshi's part in our relationship. I'm like, we need to eat now, where I'm like, man, on my own, I struggle and she feeds me. I got to feed him. I was like, oh my God. So it gets really funny. But like I find that I am very much me the entire time. Like I move the same because I don't think I'm able to move differently with the life that I live. But one thing that I have noticed this time around, because she lives with me, but I also have this nesting partner, is that I do love them both to a very high degree. The love is a little different for different reasons, but it's still both very impactful and very deep. And so what I actually find very difficult sometimes is like when I go from one to the other, there's like a moment in me that I can't necessarily explain what it feels, but it's like there's simultaneously, I am so excited to see the new partner, like the partner that I'm seeing now, but at the same time, I'm still missing and longing the one that I just left, and that happens at the same time where it's like my soul literally feels full and excited of love, but also longing for the other.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's so weird. And that's been like, I think that has been the newest thing for me, because I don't think her and I have been together when I have been like fully so deeply in a partnership, in another partnership.
Yeah, and how does that work? Because now that I think about it, it's kind of funny that you just started calling this other partner your nesting partner while Roshi's sleeping in your room. So, like, how do you deal with that? Like, you go and stay over with him, and then Roshi has her alone
space.
time.
Yeah.
And are there like negotiations around that? How is he dealing also with that?
Well, so I think it's also been new and different for him because, him and I went from, okay, well, our days are ours. And it's like, we're just always spending time at either or house because we'll spend the evenings together, to all of a sudden me being like, hey, so these 3 days, I'm going to be solely with Roshi in the evenings, in the daytime, and I mean, I'm sure it's fine. Like at the end of the day, I feel like anybody who's any relationship of any kind, there are moments where you kind of like forget what alone time is, but also is appreciated to have that time, And so I think it creates opportunities for him in that moment to maybe spend some time with friends that he hasn't been able to see. Like at the moment, because Roshi has to manage her time schedule between two partners. And when I work, I also work 12-hour shifts. So I'm not home. So I think we try to coordinate. If I'm at work, she'll try to spend time with Tim if that works. Or if there are certain days that she spends time with Tim, then I will definitely spend time with my other partner. But in the in-between time is what we're now managing and kind of like working through. So, it's like a work in progress, but it's definitely intentional and lots of scheduling conversations.
It's not the same to be open than to have two partners. Two partners require time, require effort, require scheduling. I would not be able to do two partnerships if both partners were not open to open up the calendar and block the time.
Yeah, being intentional about allocating the amount of time that you want to allocate to each partner. So things don't just like happen and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I haven't seen this other partner in like ages. Thank you for sharing that. So my last question for you is, what would you tell to a polycurious person? So maybe you earlier in your journey, or just like someone who just stumbled into the poly world and is freaking out.
I feel poly is a way of accepting how incredible human connections are in our life and how significant they can become. For me, poly is not sexual, it's romantic, it's intellectual, it's magnetism, it's like being attracted to someone else and wanting to dedicate time and energy to this other person. So I'm non-binary in the sense of like not everything is sex or friendship. There's so much more on that. So if you're curious to see how other people impact your heart and to see what's the dimension of your heart, open up yourself to this experiment and see how much you can love and how much love you can receive. But know that it's a journey in where emotional intelligence, work on oneself, it's mandatory. It's not an option. And planning is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, the lessons that I've learned in the past and still continue to hold on to is level of transparency and communication and grounding. Because I feel like those three, are like principles of security and creating a healthy dynamic. But it's also kind of navigating worlds where like at the end of the day, you can have multiple partners, you can have multiple lovers, whatever that looks like. But it's like, check in with yourself. Does this feel good? Are you aligned with yourself? Does something not feel okay? Can you explore that for yourself? Can you explore that with whichever partner is triggering that? Can you have those conversations, And I think that becomes important because at the end of the day, if you are dysregulated, everything that you do is going to feel off. So even though your partners might be fully supportive and wonderful and great and all that jazz, but if you're not regulated, if you don't feel aligned with yourself and what you want, then it's not going to work out for yourself, and it's going to cause an impact in your partner's lives. So it's like, you can engage and connect. And I love that. Like, yeah, poly is about what is it like to love and open yourself up to people, to be able to explore connections on varying degrees. Don't have expectations. See where something takes you if you can have that space and allow that to happen, but feel what feels good for you. Yeah. Like check in with yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's why poly is so helpful in kind of like helping you become your own partner in a way, because when you have two partners that have other partners, then you lose that, illusion of who you are or foundation or safety or whatever. And then you have to really like dig in and be like, I can, as you were saying, Roshi, I know the value that I bring to this relationship, even if my partner is with other people, right? And then you have to really be confident in who you are, the value that you bring to your relationships, and the type of life that you want to live when you have to constantly be a different person with different people, right? So it is like even though you are with people and you are with more people than others, like it's like an inner journey in a way,
It's all about knowing yourself.
Love that. Well, thank you both so much. This was really wonderful.
Thank you.
And
thank you
so inspiration much to all the listeners, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope they enjoy, and thank you for this. This is always so wonderful.